All right, we'll get started. We'd like to welcome two-time RBC Canadian Open champion Rory McIlroy into the interview room. Rory, I'll start with your first appearance back at Hamilton since winning in 2019. How does it feel to be back?
Yeah, it feels good to be back. You know, a lot of great memories from that time. You know, the place was buzzing. The Raptors were about to win an NBA championship, and it was my first Canadian Open, and I was blown away by just the enthusiasm that the fans had, and you know, it was such a great atmosphere to play in. And then, obviously, the year after, the world sort of shut down, and we weren't able to come back for a couple of years. But you know, glad obviously that's behind us, and you know, I've had a couple of really good experiences at the Canadian Open after that too. But yeah, it's good to be. You know, it's sort of good to be back at the place where I guess this love affair with Canada started. So yeah, looking forward to the week.
Busy stretch of golf for you coming up, but you mentioned the love affair with Canada. How important is it to you to keep coming back to this tournament?
Yeah, it's really important. I think I've made it well known my, I guess, you know, what I think of National Opens. You know, I think they're the oldest championships in our game, and I think they're very, very important. And you know, I'm very proud of the fact that I've won quite a few of them. So yeah, it's important to keep coming back, and you know, again, like to play in front of crowds like this is amazing, and yeah, it's always a pleasure to come back up here.
All right, we'll take some questions out here. If you have a question, we'll get a microphone to you. We'll start with Bob and then Jason.
Rory, what do you remember about the last round here that you played, the 61, and the feelings, and how rare are those feelings?
Yeah. So I remember the previous night getting the text message that I was going to be paired with Webb Simpson, and I liked that. I've always played well with Webb, and I've always gotten on with his caddy at the time, Paul Tesori. So I knew I was going to have a fun day the next day, and I've always, for whatever reason, when I've been grouped with those guys, I've always played well. So I felt good about it, and I'd had a few chances to win up until that point. So I'd won the Players that year, but I had a chance to win Bay Hill, didn't. I had a chance to win Quail Hollow and didn't. You know, so I'd played in quite a few. I'd played in quite a few final groups and hadn't got the job done. So I remember going out that day just thinking, be as aggressive as you possibly can be. You know, make as many birdies, and just try to. You know, my thought was like keep your foot down, like just keep your foot on the accelerator and keep going. And thankfully got off to a really good start, and kept it going until the point where, you know, 59 sort of entered the equation in the middle of the back nine. And you know, when I eagled 17, you know, knowing that I needed to birdie the last to shoot 59, and you know, blew a 5-iron right into the bunker and ended up making bogey. I had to remind myself when I tapped in to look happy because I just won a tournament. So, but I was sort of disappointed I didn't shoot 59. Not that I still think about it, but yeah. So, and with the way the golf course is now, I don't think anyone's shooting 59 out there this week. You know, it's a bit of a tougher test than it was, but yeah, great memories. You know, that final day was awesome, and yeah, you know, those feelings, thankfully they've come along a little bit in my career. Quail Hollow a couple of weeks ago was one of those times in the final round, but you know, they're few and far between, and when they do come, you have to try to make the most of them.
Got one in front right here.
What in particular makes the golf course a tougher test compared to 2019?
I think some greens are a lot slopier. A lot of the green complexes have more runoffs. So even though the greens are quite big, they play maybe a little bit smaller than they actually are. Yeah, and I think the penalties for missing are just a little more penal. You know, you've got that longer rough around the bunkers. The rough is very, very thick this week. And then, yeah, you miss the green slightly, and those really fast runoffs, the ball can run, you know, 20, 30 yards off the green. And obviously it'll be tough to get it up and down from some of those places. So I just think there's a little bit more precision needed in the way, you know, with this redesign.
There's, I guess, some of us skeptics when you didn't have a title to defend for the first time in kind of a long time here. Some of us thought maybe you wouldn't return with it, that title defend. Can you just elaborate on the reasons why you are here this week?
I mean, I think first and foremost, I love playing here. I love playing in Canada. I love playing in front of the fans. I also think to support RBC and what they've done for the PGA Tour and the game of golf, and I think that's a really important part of it as well. RBC title sponsor 2 events, 1 signature event, 1 national open. So they're a really important part of the tour in terms of from the sponsorship side, but also from trying to grow the game in Canada and support players on the tour, but also support amateur golf here as well. So I think that's an important piece to it too.
Go to Lucas.
Hi, Rory. You talked about the crowds here. How does the Canadian fan experience and support for you compare to other stops on the PGA Tour?
Yeah. Full disclosure here, and this isn't probably a good thing to say in Canada, but I've never been to a hockey game. But I'd imagine that that's sort of what it feels like. It feels like you're playing in that sort of hockey environment, especially with the rink hole. So, it's just more of a, I don't know. I'm very, very fortunate that I feel like I get good support most places that we go to play. But it's just for whatever reason, it's just a little bit extra here in Canada.
One in front right here.
Rory, just wanted to ask you a question regarding being on tour and how long it takes as a kind of an individual contractor, I guess, to assemble around you the team that you feel kind of gives you the best chance for success. Obviously swing coach, but trainer and maybe a mental type approach. Those kind of elements. Yeah. Just as you go through your career, maybe what does it take to kind of hit on all those elements?
Yeah, I think it ebbs and flows throughout the course of your career. I think it's absolutely imperative to have a great team around you, and I'm incredibly lucky that I do. But everyone's different. Some people have bigger teams, some people have smaller teams, some people like having a lot of people around at golf tournaments, some people don't. It's really up to the individual. I have a great team that I can lean on, but whenever I get to a tournament venue, I try to keep the entourage pretty small. But it's important. I mean, I think with how competitive the game is now, and you have to do everything right from a swing coach to short game to putting to mental to physical training, diet. All of those things combined, because the margins out here are so small, and you just don't want to feel like you're giving anyone an advantage in any way. So, it's incredibly competitive, and I think because of that, you're seeing more and more guys try to assemble these teams around them that give them the best chance for success.
Someone on the left over here.
Rory, taking the week off after Valhalla, ahead of this kind of hectic stretch now, was it a chance to switch off a bit? And what are the kind of focuses for you in terms of the game coming back in this week ahead of 4 huge weeks?
Yeah, it was. I certainly switched off. I went to one of my best friend's weddings in Italy for 4 days, which was a lot of fun, and good to see a lot of people from home I haven't seen in a long time. And so it was actually a really good trip. I needed it, and then I had a great weekend at home. Spent time with my family and with Poppy, and it was awesome. So I needed that reset, and I'm playing 4 weeks in a row here. So I'm ready to go. But it's been a busy stretch, and I'm sort of easing my way back into it. I probably hit a grand total of probably 150 balls last week. So. Not that I feel rusty. I feel like I've played enough golf to keep myself ticking over. But last week was a good week to just reset and sort of start again.
Bob?
Rory, what do you remember about last year's final hole? I don't know if you saw it live or if you were flying at the time, or what are your thoughts about that putt? Yeah,
I was on my way to the golf. I was on my way from the golf course to the airport, and I listened to it on the radio. So I heard the call on the radio, which was. Full disclosure, I was hoping Tommy would get his first PGA Tour win, but Nick had other plans. But yeah, just absolutely incredible. The fact that, a Canadian hadn't won this National Open in 60-something years. And the way that Nick did it, that putt at the end, the scene, like just all of it, the celebrations, Adam Hadwin getting absolutely smoked by the security guard, like just all of it was incredible. And this tournament deserved it, in all honesty. It deserved to finish like that because of not just what had happened at the start of the week last year, but also what had happened the year previous as well. It deserved to finish like that, and even though Tommy didn't win, I was so glad that it did end the way it did.
Got time for 2 more questions. One in front right here.
Rory, since Dustin Johnson sort of pulled the chute on RBC at St. George's, you've sort of been at the center of the LIV hurricane. I'm wondering if it has distracted from your golf game or personal life.
I don't think so. I mean, I think in hindsight, I wish I hadn't have gotten involved, or not hadn't gotten involved, hadn't have gotten as deeply involved in it. And I've articulated that. I've said that I hold no grudges, I hold no resentment over the guys that chose to go and play on LIV. Everyone's got their own decisions to make, and everyone is has the right to make those decisions. My whole thing is I'm just disappointed to what it's done to not to the game of golf. The game of golf will be fine, but men's professional golf and this sort of divide we have at the minute, and hopefully we're on a path to sorting that out and getting that to come back together. But yeah, I mean, if in hindsight's always 20/20, but in hindsight, I wish I hadn't have gotten as deeply involved as I had.
And last question in the back from Kevin.
And then Rory, such sad news last weekend with Grayson Murray's passing. I'm wondering, kind of when you hear that news, what goes through your mind, and what are the things to kind of, take from that and make sure to hold on to?
I mean, it's incredibly sad, first and foremost, and I think we're all thinking of Grayson's family and hoping that they're doing okay and getting through this incredibly tough period. And I think it's cliche, but it puts everything in perspective. It puts everything. At the end of the day, golf is golf, and we play it for a living, and but it pales in comparison to the things that actually matter in life. And that's I've had to realize that at times, and I'm still sort of working my way through that in terms of not making golf the be-all, end-all for me. But I think it slaps you in the face when something like that happens last week. And, as I said, it's incredibly sad. And, everyone has to remember out here that we go out and we do things that a lot of people can't. But at the end of the day, we're still human beings, and we're vulnerable and we're fragile. And I think if there's a lesson for anyone out there, it's just to be kinder to each other.
Thank you very much for your time, Rory, and best of luck this week.
Thank you.